Okay, so I assumed I had talked about this before, but I searched my podcast episodes and I couldn't find an episode that talked about control and anxiety. I don't know how I'm going to title this yet, but this is also going to be a little bit of a different conversation because usually in a conversation I learn a lot and intend to learn about how my relationship is with whatever the topic I'm speaking on. However, this is more informative for others understanding me than it is about me understanding me, because I feel like this is something I have figured out, and it's been that way for a while, and a lot of other people maybe don't know this information, and it's kind of more useful for you in dealing with people that have anxiety types that manifest like mine. It's a simple concept, but again, people can get it twisted pretty easily, and especially if it suits them. I really like to be in control. I like to be in control of my own life. We've got to unpack that a bit, because I want to be in control of as much as possible in how it pertains to me and how it will affect me in my life. And sometimes that means your relationships with others, those are things that affect your life, right? Your job affects your life, how you spend your own time affects your life, and you can do that solitarily or with friends, family, partners, whatever. Life, I will say right off the bat, just does things, just comes at you. That's such like a weird defensive response to life, but that's how I feel. Especially because part of a huge anxiety thing for me is mortality. So, just the nuances and complications of living life itself, there are millions and millions of things you cannot control that you just have to deal with. I acknowledge that. Absolutely I do. Which is why I want to control the things that I can control within reason that will affect me. Now, some people's anxiety in this realm gets so bad they can't leave the house. They don't want to be subject to the unknown. I feel like I handle it pretty well, and that there's a lot of things, ask people that are close to me, but again, different personality types and things and lack of understanding is why I want to share this information and talk about it. I don't want to control others, but I do want to control how others control me, if that makes sense. So I'm going to give you some examples. So first of all, what is a way that I can control things in my own life? Organization and planning. That's basically it. Sometimes that's planning for things that don't exist yet, because I'm overanalyzing every situation almost automatically. It's just an innate thing that I do, that part of me is searching for, what do I do if this happens? What do I do if this happens? What are they thinking? Because if I know what they're thinking and all the different possibilities of what their thoughts are, that might dictate their actions and how their actions might affect me. So it sounds exhausting and it is tiresome, but it's also, like I said, for me, it's automatic. It's not something that I just sit there and do. It's just automatic. Like, I don't really know what else to say about it. It just comes immediately and starts happening, and it's rare that it feels like it takes up my energy. I know that it does over time, but it depends on how many scenarios I'm thinking about and how actively I'm thinking about them, or if I notice I'm thinking about them and continue to do so, or if I feel the need to think about them. Like, actively thinking about scenarios, it'd be like I'm going on a road trip. What do I need for the road trip? Let me think. What if this happens? What if that happens? Do I have a gas tank in the back? Do I have a spare blanket? What if I go off-road and it's winter? Like, I generally thought about those things one time, and my trunk has those things in there, and that's it. But things like, how long is this trip going to be? Like, to me, those are regular things. Like, to plan. Like, am I going to need to stop for gas at all? If I do need to stop for gas, where should I stop for gas? It would make sense to kind of find an appropriate place to do that. So those are things that I feel are regular things that most people would or should plan and organize and figure out. Obviously, some people just fly by the seat of their pants and life's an adventure and they deal with all these unknowns and crazy scenarios. They don't necessarily have to. Sometimes they like that, sometimes they don't, and they don't realize they can prevent it. I realized early on there's a lot of things I can prevent that I don't want, like outcomes that I don't want, if I just am, again, being self-aware is really innate for the most part, but it's also something that takes work and skill and a conscious effort to decide you're going to reflect on things sometimes. Like, again, part of it for me, automatic, because it's overanalyzing. Automatic. And the other things, and sometimes it's not, and I need to really reflect on who I am, why do I feel this way, what am I doing to myself and the people around me, and how does that all kind of culminate within what I'm feeling and how I'm going to feel. So a lot of planning and organization also has to do with reflecting in order to plan for next time, in order to, like, analyzing what did happen as much as analyzing what will happen, how I can make things happen or prevent things from happening. That is all part of control. Controlling what I can as much, like, just as much as I can, so that I don't end up feeling anxious, stressed, in harm's way, whether physically or emotionally or mentally or all of the above. It's about protection, you know, of self-preservation, you know? So, some people take this amount of control, you know, to call you controlling. Obviously, people can be controlling, but there's a huge difference in my opinion, trying to control your life and outcome and the things that happen to you or with you is a lot different than trying to controlling out of anxiety versus controlling out of ego or narcissism or power. Like, power and control are really similar, but I mean, I'm not trying to control my situation to boost my ego and feed a power hungriness. It's that I know that this is something that I need in order to feel good with myself and relaxed, and to understand what is going on. Me trying to control a situation is understanding, why is the situation happening? Does it have to happen that way? What can we do to make it happen a different way if that way doesn't seem good? Whatever. It is not a thirst for power, it's a thirst for knowledge and understanding. It's the same thing. So I was going to give you a scenario of how I might want to control how people interact with me, or whatever. If I'm going to go do an activity with somebody, I would like to have information. So I'd like to know who's going to be there. If we're just going to hang out, is it just you and I? How long do you have? Are other people going to be there? What would you like to do? Like, I don't know, there's just so much, like, it's something as simple as that. It doesn't take energy from me, but some people are so just chill that they don't see, like, it wouldn't bother them if I just showed up with somebody and they didn't have that in their head. Whereas for me, I'm like, okay, I had a thought going into this that was going to be, was you and me hanging out. I don't want to hang out with someone else. I don't want to meet somebody new. I don't want to whatever. Like, I would like communication. So to me, that's just a respectful thing to do. And this is a scenario where if someone doesn't communicate with me that the plans have changed, and those plans include me, they are taking control out of my hands that I should be able to have in my hands, because it's my time too. Like, those actions have a direct consequence on my enjoyment of that time that we committed to spend together. Again, we made a commitment about what that would be. Plans can change. Communication would be a great thing to have when plans do change, or asking if plans can change. And I find this is just, again, with different personality types and different people and whatever, like, meeting new people is something that sparks anxiety for me. I can do it. I've done it lots. There's certain scenarios where it's better than others. Certain scenarios where I'm very prepared to just do that kind of on the fly. And that's the thing, is like, I'm very particular with a lot of things, and there's some things I just can't seem to help. However, I'm prepared to a degree that things will happen out of my control, and I know that. But the things like that I was saying before my battery died, I'm completely aware that there are tons of things that are not in my control. Again, thus reiterating the point, I want to control what I can. and other people have a certain amount of control too. And there are things, let's just say the weather, not really in anyone's control. If we thought the weather was going to be one thing because we checked on the weather, and it turns out to be something else, then you just got to roll with it. You just got to deal with it. It sucks. Maybe you make a comment, you move on, whatever. It's nobody's fault. But when someone completely ignores, let's say they have a reminder set, they choose to ignore the reminder, they forget to set a reminder, I don't even know. There's so many scenarios where the issue traces back to a person and a fault that they've made. And the problem is, if I can diagnose that where things broke down was in someone's control, I blame that person. That isn't good. Because we all make mistakes. But this is that right there, that little thing, is a difficult habit to break. It's something that I've been working on for a while, something I'll continue to work on. But this is trying to explain that that's how I see things. Like, oh, you had control of this thing, and because you didn't do what you needed to do, now it's entering my life and causing chaos. And that, chaos, anxiety, stress, whatever. Sometimes that's fine. Again, everyone makes mistakes. Sometimes they're small things. Sometimes they're bigger things. Sometimes I'm already in an anxiety spiral and a small thing doesn't help. And it's just like, you could have just done this small thing to prevent this bigger thing from happening. And maybe out of laziness you didn't do it. And then it becomes a whole other thing. You start to analyze and you start to judge a lot. Not you, but me, or someone that might have my same anxiety issues. So it's really easy to combine those things of like wanting to control a situation, wanting to be informed, wanting communication, wanting to understand, and for someone to see that as controlling in an angry, aggressive, narcissistic, egotistical way. Especially if, when someone has made mistakes, my reaction is to place blame and be like, ugh, you caused me to feel this way, which is a whole other episode. Someone causing you feelings, which I need to navigate how I feel about that. But that's the thing. Again, just to recap, wanting control for me and a lot of people is about wanting understanding and communication so that they can effectively plan and organize themselves so that they can deal with things better. If you can live without chaos, why wouldn't you try? And for someone who might be more sensitive to chaos, why not try and make things less chaotic? For some people who are exactly the opposite, they're not sensitive to chaos at all, then they don't feel a need to maybe control things as much because nothing matters, but it feels like so many things matter more with this kind of anxiety that I feel. And there's other things we can do other than trying to control the situation. Things like trying to start your day off lighter. Some people can meditate in the mornings or work out or do whatever. And that might help you start at what I call starting out at like a 2 instead of like a 5. If on a scale of 1 to 10 of anxiety or stress or whatever, like if certain things are going to set me off, a certain amount, if I start out lower, even if that thing sets me off the same amount, I'm starting off down lower on the scale. It'll take me longer to get to a 7 or an 8. But also by doing certain things in the morning or to start my day or the night before or whatever to prepare for the day, then I won't be as likely for something that would normally take me up 2 notches. Maybe it only takes me up 1.5 now. Anyway, that's me trying to explain control in a healthy way, or in a way that just is necessary to a degree, and acknowledging that, yeah, of course we can't control everything. That's obvious, but there's some things we can, and there's some things other people can, and that's where a lot of things get messed up. When people around you can control things, and they don't understand how it affects you and impacts you incredibly negatively when they don't do sometimes what they commit to do. That's just one example. Anyway, that's it for me. See you on another time.